Hello. Good afternoon. Bonjour.
Okay.
Welcome to the Circle stage in our session on inner growth to outer change. Today I had the weirdest conversation with my fiance before leaving our hotel room, where all of a sudden I felt very insecure about the back of my head, and I asked, how does the back of my head look? Because for the first time in 5 years since I've been hosting on this stage, the Circle stage is my first today, my first time here, and so I'm gonna say, this is a fantastic stage, I'm really happy to be here. And also, I have a whole bunch of guilt about the people who are behind me and will be seeing my back, so I apologize in advance if you see more of the back of my suit than you do my face. Fortunately, we have these amazing screens up here, so you should be able to see everyone as we present today. Having said all of that, I think this stage is absolutely perfect for the discussion we're going to have today. You may know this, historically, circles have a lot of symbolism ingrained in them. They are often associated with the cycle of life, rebirth, regeneration. People congregate in circles to find healing, to find community, to find collective action and inspiration. A circle is a symbol of completeness and wholeness. And within a safety of a circle like this, oftentimes people can feel more comfortable, to be vulnerable, to be open, to share stories that they might not otherwise share, and to find community through that sharing. That sharing then allows us to foster our own inner strength and go out into the world and make massive change. Allow me to introduce myself briefly. My name is Martina Buchal. I am an award-winning speaker, coach, and I work with leaders on helping them develop positive impact through internal change through my Start Within approach. Based on that, I'm sure you can tell I am extremely excited to be hosting this session today. I'm very honored to be introducing our guests, and because this isn't about me, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very first speaker, who is fantastic, coming here all the way from London. I'm going to say her little bio, then we're going to do a jingle, and she's going to come up here full of energy. Her name is Phoebe Tickell. Phoebe describes herself as an imagination activist, a new kind of activist that works with imagination to create better actions for the planet and the future. She is the founder of Mourel Imaginations, an organization catalyzing imagination activists through research, thought leadership, and movement building. She has a background as a biological natural scientist, technologist, and social entrepreneur. Phoebe is recognized as a leading systems thinker, and she lectures and speaks globally, sharing her unique perspective on complex challenges. Please welcome to the stage, Phoebe Tickell.
It is wonderful to be here with you. I'm just taking in for a moment the feeling that I'm standing in the middle of 35,000 people that really care about the future, that really care about the planet, that really care about making change. My name is Phoebe Tickell, and I call myself an imagination activist. And my talk today is called How to Be an Imagination Activist. I'm going to be talking to you about what that means, why imagination is so crucial at this time, and how that inner growth, expanding our imaginations, can lead to far more ambitious change. But to start with, I wanted to start by giving you a gift. You see, I come from a future where all your friends and family live fulfilling lives, where all children have the right to education, to health, to play safely in the streets. I want to show you this door, this portal. Hopefully you can all see it. This is a door, this is a tool that as an imagination activist, I use every day. And as you look at this door, as you look at this tool, it's interacting with your neurons, and it is an actual real-life portal to the future that you dream of, that you imagine. So look through that door. What is that future for you? I want you to breathe it in. I want you to really take a deep breath, breathe it in, feel that future. The future I come from is a future beyond capital. It's a future beyond ownership. It's a future beyond competition, beyond danger to safety and lack of health and inequality. But it's not beyond imagination. The role of an imagination activist is to build the longing for this kind of future. It's to build the sensation that this is possible, that it's real. The role of a normal activist is to try and get people to take moral action. The role of an imagination activist is to remind you what it is that you're fighting for, what it is that you believe in, what is it that is driving you to make the changes, to do the work you do every day. Now, one of the imagination activists that inspire me the most from the past is MLK, Martin Luther King. But he didn't sell some dream of the future. He didn't sell some fantasy. And actually, Glennon Doyle says, perhaps the role of imagination is not to escape reality, but to remember it. What MLK did, the civil rights movement, was to unsettle the present. It wasn't to sell a future, it was to unsettle the present. He highlighted that the world that America had promised, where every person has rights, a world of freedom, of equal chances in life, he highlighted that this was a promise that was not being fulfilled. And he used extremely powerful language and metaphors and storytelling. He would talk about how African Americans of the US were given a check, a bad check, that they were going to the bank and they couldn't cash that check. But he said this bank of justice is not bankrupt. And he made people realize that this was unfair, unjust, and it was not promising the world and the reality that actually our highest morals, our highest values had promised. Same for the suffragettes. All social change starts in imagination. And all of these changes seemed impossible before they happened. Every single massive social change seemed completely impossible. Black people having rights in America, women having the vote, the Berlin Wall coming down. Even the smoking ban in the UK seemed completely absurd before it happened. Can you imagine today smoking still being legal in pubs and workplaces and even schoolrooms, and there being talk about how the fight against smoking continues, we're trying our best, but smoking continues? No. When we realize that there is a discrepancy beyond the present that we're living and the kind of world we want to live in, we take action. This is the role of imagination. This is why it's so important. And this is why we need to stoke it together as activists. This is a famous image, 1969, Neil Armstrong, man on the moon. It was 1962 when JFK said, "We choose to go to the moon, and we will get to the moon by the end of this decade." It took them 7 years. 7 years to go from saying, "We choose to go to the moon," to getting that done. Now I want you to just imagine, use your imagination, to think, what if we heard politicians saying, "We choose to ban homelessness. We choose to eradicate food waste. We choose to solve child poverty." Could we achieve that in 7 years? Can we gather the momentum? Can we gather the imagination that that is possible and see a world where that is the case? Now, I think that going to the moon is great, it was impressive, but I actually think these issues that we're facing, where people do not have enough to eat, do not have somewhere to sleep, are fearing for their lives, the situation in Gaza right now, it is heavy on all of our consciousnesses. So can we start to bring about a culture where we use our imagination to help people envision these futures where these things are impossible. So we put a man on the moon, we say it was in 7 years, but in actual fact, we'd gone to the moon hundreds of times in stories, in the news, in cartoons. In 1865, there was a book called From the Earth to the Moon, full of beautiful illustrations, bringing that vision of what would it be like if we went to the moon. And that's what we need to do right now as activists, as climate activists, as social activists. We need to be telling stories so irresistible about these kinds of futures, about what would happen if we did ban these things, if we did manage to do these things. And it's through that storytelling, it's through that imagination that we will move from imagination to action. I love this quote by Don DeLillo, who says in his book Underworld, "Longing on a large scale is what makes history. Longing on a large scale is what makes history." As imagination activists, we need to build that longing for a different future. And we need to remind ourselves that it is possible. Ursula K. Le Guin, a fantastic sci-fi author, recently passed away, an absolute heroine of mine, says, "Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings." And that resistance and change starts in art, and often in the art of words, of storytelling. We need to be telling those stories all the time. That's how we're going to get there. Why do we need to do this? I don't need to talk to a room full of people that care about change, about the current dire situation, but some of the things that are playing on my mind. July this year was the hottest day on record. That means it was the hottest day for 120,000 years. We're set to break the Paris Agreement by the end of the decade. Global warming is predicted to reach 2 degrees by the end of this decade, which will mean 1 billion deaths. 3 degrees of warming means 40% biodiversity loss. I just want to let that sink in. It is said that we can account 1,000 tons of carbon to equate 1 future human life. So we have the facts, we have the science. The problem is not one of science, it's a problem of imagination and of will. The last one that I want to say is this piece of news about plastic really hit home for me. So it's predicted that in the next 10 years we'll be increasing, a 40% increase in plastic waste. And it's predicted that by 2050 there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. We have the facts. We don't have resource problems. We have imagination problems. This is one of the mantras that I hold really, really close, and one of the mantras of being an imagination activist. We think that the problems we have are technological. We think that we need more facts. We need more, it's a lack of resources or a lack of knowledge or intelligence. I promise you that if we closed the doors on this stage and we said nobody here is going home until we fix these problems, I promise you we would fix them. We have all the intelligence, we have all the talent and all the ideas we need. And I came to realize this when I was a scientist. I started life as a scientist, as a technologist, working in biotechnology. I was passionate about changing the world. I was a climate activist in my spare time, and in my job, I was a scientist, clearly didn't have a lot of hobbies, and needed to have a bit more of a life. But you can see me there on the left. I started life as a scientist, and in a way I went through my own kind of reimagination of who I am, and what my work is all about. You know, my original path was all laid out for me. I would be a scientist, I would have a lab, become a professor, publish some good papers in some good journals, probably get married, move to a suburb in London, have 2 dogs. It was all kind of planned out. And I reimagined everything. I do not live in a suburb in London. I don't have 2 dogs, nor am I married. And I'm now an imagination activist, and I travel the world, and I try and stoke people's imagination and their passion and their longing to change the world, because we do not need any more technological innovations. I realized at that time that actually the problems that we face are far more upstream than technology. And actually, even the innovation pipeline that technology enters when you create a new discovery or a new technology is actually broken from the start with investors, with trying to create returns on investment, and suddenly what you've created has been funneled into serving a capitalist system that ultimately needs to change. So in 2020, I started this organization called Moral Imaginations. And as you can see, there's a man there. You know, it's about pumping imagination iron. We believe that imagination is a muscle. And so far what we've seen is indeed it is. The more you practice imagination, the more you expand your vision of what the world could be like, the more you build that inner will that the world can and must be different, the more that muscle strengthens. And so to date, we've worked with about 1,000 people, 30 organizations, and this movement is building. More and more people are getting in touch saying, you've finally given a name for the thing that I feel I am. I'm an imagination activist. You've helped me realize who I am and what my role is and what kind of work I want to do in the world. And I invite you all to call yourselves imagination activists too. But no imagination washing. If you're going to call yourself that, you need to be committed to expanding and the imagination of the people around you, of building that ambition. We're called moral imaginations. We also believe in moral ambition, moral innovation, that we can harness the talents of human beings, of collective action to create a world that is good for all. And we have been on quite a journey in the last 4 years. On the screen you can see a picture of our report of some work we did with a municipality in the centre of London called Camden Council. And we decided to work with Camden Council, with a local council, as our first organisation, because we believe in imagination justice. We think that there is already a lot of imagination capital being hoarded by the private sector. And actually what we need is more imagination capital, more time, more space, more permission, and more practice in the not-for-profit sector, in the civil society sector. I want to see local governments be the beacons of imagination in the future, supporting citizens to imagine what kind of neighborhoods and worlds they want to live in, and helping them take the actions and raise the funds and organize to put that into reality, to make that real. And so we worked with Camden. So in 2022, Camden Council became the first local council to run an imagination activist training. Can I get a little cheer? Woo! Thank you. I say that because they will not be the last. We're working with more and more local councils now. And my dream is that in 10 years, imagination activist training will be absolutely essential and mandatory in all local councils and in central government. We need to be feeding our imaginations. We cannot settle for piecemeal, plaster-sticking solutions right now. We have to stay ambitious, we have to stay excited, and we have to stay energized and with our eyes on the future. The training took place over 8 weeks. And it was a cohort of 30 council officers who met each week, going through all sorts of exercises, practices, visioning the future, connecting with nature, bringing the voice of future generations and bringing the voice of nature into their decision making. So it was a very exciting and kind of fast-paced course that led them to be these ambassadors of imagination for the organization. The other project I want to talk to you about that Moral Imaginations has run is a course called Tools for Regenerative Renaissance. And what we did, was 500 people went on this journey over 8 weeks, where we connected them with alternatives that are happening right now in their neighborhoods. And so that's something else I want to highlight. The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed, as William Gibson said. We've already got the solutions. We don't need more like thinking and engineering. They're already there. And actually, as you can see, some of those solutions, we've got community-supported agriculture, cooperatives, community microgrids, ethical banks. So the course connected people to those alternatives and brought them together in community to make that reality, to make that future real today. So 3 things that as an imagination activist you can cultivate. You can help people feel different futures. Bring that alive with stories, immersive environments, show, don't tell, give people a real lived sense of what those futures are. 2 is act like the future is here already. And I'll show you a quick example of that. 3 is challenge paradigms and worldviews. Clearly, the current paradigm and worldview is not working. The promise of communism and socialism also failed. The dream of capitalism is coming to an end. Something else is wanting to be born. We don't know what it is yet, but that should excite you. This is an opportunity to create something different, to create something with human and more than human flourishing at the center. And I'm not alone. There are imagination activists out there, lots of them starting to build. We've got Rob Hopkins, who time travels from the future, talks about the future that's already happened. We've got Alexa Clay, who's the Amish futurist, which I absolutely love. She dresses up and role plays an Amish person and goes to Silicon Valley tech conferences and asks really uncomfortable questions about why this technology is really necessary and can't we just go back to making buttermilk. I absolutely love her. She's fantastic. And then there's a place in the Netherlands where these activists wheeled 1,000 trees to different parts of the city to give people a real felt sense of what it would look like to green the city. I'm going to finish up because I can see that we're coming to an end. I want to leave you with one more image, one more metaphor, and if there's nothing else you take away from this talk, that's fine. So I'm going to invite you to use your imaginations to imagine that you are a goldfish. Imagine you're a goldfish right now. You're swimming around in your fish tank. Fish tank is lovely and warm. You've got a lovely bubble machine. Ooh, bubbles, amazing. You're distracted, you're happy. There's a lovely little fake castle. There's sparkly little rocks on the floor. And you're happy and it's great. But as you grow older, you start to realize that something is not quite right in the fish tank. Why is it that there's not enough fish food for all the little fish? Why is it that the sides of the fish tank aren't cleaned often enough? Why is there all this waste? And you go on a goldfish strike. You don't go to goldfish school anymore. You glue yourself to the side of the fish tank, and you have a little placard and it says, "There is no fish tank B," or "There is another fish tank is possible." I want you to think of this as where we currently are. The kinds of solutions, green capitalism, design thinking, sustainability, ESG, blah, blah, blah. This is just trying to make the fish tank a little bit more habitable. Where we need to go is to teach people and to yearn and to get to the vast and endless sea. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phoebe, for the enlightening talk, for inviting us all to drum up our courage, our imagination, and go out there and make a better world. Thank you so, so much. Now, as Phoebe has already shown us, there is a connection between our internal world and our external world. We can create a new world through cultivating something new within. But it's true that actually that goes in both directions. Our inner world affects our outer world, and our outer world affects our inner world. Our next 2 speakers, our lovely panelists, will be coming up here today to unpack that for us a little bit more, to help us understand what that connection, what that relationship is all about. And I can tell you, you could not have better speakers on this particular subject. They are world-class change makers. I will introduce them both first, and then they'll come up together to our little jingle. So first up, we have Amandine Roche. Amandine is a UN empowerment specialist, an award-winning author of 3 books, a photographer, a yoga teacher, and a meditation teacher. She studied inner peace and nonviolence in India with His Holiness the Dalai Lama himself, along with other spiritual leaders. And for the last 2 decades, her work brought her to conflict zones such as Afghanistan, Libya, Haiti, Iraq, Congo, where she was there to heal the invisible wounds of war and to give leadership to women. Amandine is also the founder of the Amanuddin Foundation, which brings yoga and meditation to Afghanistan, as well as the inner peacekeeping program for humanitarians on the front line. This program helps prevent depression, anxiety, and PTSD. She now lives in Mallorca, where she started her own retreat healing center. Our second speaker is Marion Chaygneaud-Dupuy. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I've got the nod. Marion graduated from Tibet University in Lhasa, which is the capital of Tibet, after 6 years of studying Buddhist philosophy and intensive retreats in monasteries and remote caves. She has climbed Everest not once, not twice, but 3 times. And it's thanks to her and her team that 2 billion people who depend on water from the glaciers now get clean water thanks to her initiatives which protect the Himalayan mountains. She'll tell us more about that once she's on stage. Marion now works as a speaker and facilitator on leadership issues, and she's the author of 2 books which outline her personal journey, as well as her call to action for caring leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a massive round of applause for 2 wonderful panelists. Welcome to the stage, ladies. Whew. Hello, hello. Welcome in the circle. So we've got a big topic, inner change or inner growth to outer change. It's absolutely massive. We've already had a bit of a taste sample from Phoebe. I think this is a really important subject, especially for the audience we have here today. I imagine, maybe by a show of hands, how many of you in here would consider yourselves to be leaders? Change makers? Caregivers, mothers, fathers, right? So people who are in roles of taking care of people, taking care of the world. Basically, you're in a position of care. That sort of position, I think, puts us in a really interesting situation sometimes, where our external worlds, the people that we care for, the causes that we work for, can also affect us deeply on the inside through our empathy, through our connection to the causes that we serve. I'd love to talk a little bit first about why it's not so good, maybe, to get too involved in our work. Speaking from my own personal experience in my work, I know that if I get too involved with my clients, with my cause, I can get burnt out. I can get frustrated. I don't have the energy to be of service in the way that I think the cause requires. Amandine, you're an expert in this space. I want you to tell us a little bit about your story of what happened for you in Afghanistan, what you learned there, and maybe ultimately what we can learn from your journey as well on this topic.
Thank you, Martina. Good afternoon. Afghanistan for me have been the best teacher ever. I should say Afghanistan is a land of truth. Afghanistan is a land of light. That's why there is so many men fighting for this light for a decade. And Afghanistan for me have been my best spiritual teacher ever, because I've been working in Afghanistan for almost 15 years. Working on women empowerment, democratization, human rights, freedom of expression with United Nations, on and off. And because of that, of course, it disturbed the Taliban regime, which was already collapsed. But so with my colleague, we faced a lot of danger, a lot of death threat, assassination, kidnapping, and I realized working for Afghanistan for 15 years, literally I killed myself for peace. And I realized, I was not aware of that, but after 15 years, I was completely broken and completely in chaos within. And I realized that I needed to fix myself. I was not okay, suffering of depression, anxiety, PTSD. And I was starting to have a stomach cancer. So I realized it was time for me to stop and to figure out how can I find my inner peace of mind again. And this is how I start a journey. And I have to say Afghanistan is like Tibet as well. It's such a energetical vortex on high frequency. But if you are too close, you burn yourself. But it's also an amazing teacher in the sense that Afghanistan peeled all the layer of my identity in order for me to reach the core of my soul. So because of all this trauma, I say, I cannot keep on working like that. I need to figure out how I bring back my peace of mind. And I went to my first spiritual teacher, which is His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which I share with Marion. And I love his talk. I remember it was in 2007. During his public talk, he said, you cannot bring outer peace if you don't start within yourself. And his sentence resonates deep within myself in the sense, I say, who I am to work in Afghanistan for peace if I'm completely depressed inside and broken. So I realized that I'm a fraud. And I don't want to be a fraud. It's a question of alignment. You have to incarnate what you are preaching. And I was working on peace process and democratization. So I took my backpack and I went all around India to meet the Goenka, learn meditation, learn yoga, to meet Amma as well, to meet other spiritual teachers. And finally I went back to Afghanistan in 2008, where actually I realized all my colleagues were suffering of PTSD and also my Afghan colleagues. So they say, wow, can you start to teach yoga and meditation, which I started, and more was teaching, I realized all of them were suffering of depression, anxiety. So I say, this is a question of mental health in this country. We have to do something. So I create this foundation where we create a Torch of Light school, 350 kids, and also teaching yoga, meditation in jail to Afghan women, to the Taliban. And you have a lot of success, I have to say, because they say, well, it's like a prayer, actually. We do it 5 times a day. We reconnect to Allah. It's kind of similar. And afterward, I realized, wait a minute, if all my Afghan can benefit of this meditation program, why not my UN colleague as well? So I connect with my boss, Ban Ki-moon in New York, and I say, are you aware of the sanity and the mental health of your staff on the front line? Because this is my story. I've been evacuated 4 times for security reasons. I've been suffering from depression and anxiety for so many years, but this is also a story of all my colleagues. What can we do? And he say, well, I'm very aware of that, but I don't know what to do. I say, well, in this case, we should give some tools to incarnate peace and non-violence as well, in the sense, if you are an apostle of peace, working for peace, how can you keep and preserve that within yourself? And I say, what do you propose? I said, well, I don't know, but I would have loved to receive all these tools before going to Afghanistan to prevent this PTSD. And he says, sure, and how do you do that? I said, we should create a curriculum where we are going to learn the technique of yoga, of breathing, of meditation, to go deep within yourself and to reconnect with your soul, actually, and to see all the symptoms through your emotion, to prevent to go into depression. I say, okay, go for it. And so I fundraise and I develop the inner peacekeeping program, which is 3 days program for the humanitarian before going on mission, during the mission, and after the mission to figure out how they are on mental health. I don't want to take too much of time.
Oh, that's amazing. I'm in awe of your work, everyone. Incredible. And so necessary, and so necessary. I hear in what you're saying that there's an aspect of walking your talk, that if you're going to go out there and you're going to work for peace, you should embody peace, that it's about actually actioning that inner world. Marion, I want to hear about your initiative and what actions you're putting into the world and how you're walking your talk. Tell us about your initiative, your journey. We want to hear all about it.
Sure. I'm here for that. I'm here for you all to present you about my journey on cleaning the Everest. So I was a Himalayan trekking guide, I guess, and then I was just seeing the mountain, Mount Everest. But actually the Tibetans, where I live in Tibet for 18 years, they were not seeing the Everest as the Everest. They see the Everest as a Jomo Langma. Jomo Langma is the name for the goddess of the elephant protecting the earth. It's the name they give for the mountain. So we had a vision together with the Tibetans that we are going caring for the Chomolungma. If the mountain gives us protection, how we are going to give back or care? And so with 100 Tibetans, we started projects together with 50 yaks as well.
50 yaks?
Yeah, 50 yaks.
You got the animals involved too?
Yes.
Great.
Actually, the Tibetan mountain guide from the mountain guide school, they offered 50,000 hours of the time to collect the trash from the Mount Everest, because there was 10 tons of pollution, of trash, waste on the mountain, on the north face in Tibet. So it took us 6 years. It took us like 300,000 euros to start on this project. And then the government, the local government, and then the central government took over after the fourth years. I'm talking actually very loudly, I think, but the microphone should be working fine, yeah.
I think we're okay. Can everyone hear okay? Yeah, we've got thumbs up in the back.
Okay, good.
I think we're good, yeah.
Okay. So we came up with an environmental charter, because it was good at the beginning to work as a volunteers, like offering hours and hours of collecting trash on the Mount Everest. But at some point, it's good like that to have a kind of a bottom-up kind of movement of like local staff, like mountain-related jobs, like cooks and assistants and mountain guides to clean up the mountains, including me and the volunteers from the international expedition. But it was also good to have a legislation, like a top-down kind of project from the local government and then the central government to endorse the environmental charter that we have put together, so that we actually have a long-term kind of protection of the mountain. To care for the mountain is not only to clean up all the waste, but it's also to have a guarantee that in the future there is no more expeditions that are going to trash the mountain. So the one environmental charter was kind of instrumental for the success of the project. And then I went 3 times to the summit just to feel like what it is to high altitude acclimatization for the body. So that it's not only a vision, like kind of, okay, we have a dream for having like to give back to the highest mountain in the world, this pristine kind of glaciers and the cleanliness of the mountain. But it's also good to have like experience in your body, like with all the cells, like what it is. I mean, the mind and the body cannot be separated. So to experience what it is by myself, climbing up to the top, experiencing the difficulties of all the climbers who go to the summit, was also part of the process. Yeah, and then, well, actually, we took care of 180 degrees of the mountain with the Tibetans on the north face. But is our vision really achieved? Well, actually, no. And I still feel very sad for that. When I hear from the Sherpas in Nepal, on the Nepali side of the Mount Everest in the south, I hear that there is even more pollution than on the north side, where we have worked. So now, actually, our work, and this is going to be very, very tough, is to work on the 360 degrees of caring for the mountain, and to have the Nepalese government to endorse a new environmental charter that needs to be adapted for the context, but yeah, to have one environmental charter for both sides and to take care of like 360 degrees of the mountain.
Wow, so the work's not done yet, but the work that you've done so far has already made such a massive
10 tons of trash, Leah, that was left over for...
That's absolutely incredible, Marion. Absolutely incredible. I'm curious because I fixated on this as I was sort of presenting your bios. I just realized that the two of you have something in common, and it's that both of you have studied Buddhism. You've both met the Dalai Lama, if I'm not mistaken, or you've definitely worked in Tibetan context. I imagine most of us can't take a month off of our lives and go meet His Holiness the Dalai Lama, go live in the Himalayas, but there must be things that you learned while you were in these spaces that you can share with the audience, change makers, leaders, people who want to make a difference, that can propel maybe their journeys forward. Is there something you'd like to share around your learning there? Go ahead, as you're inspired.
Yes, definitely. Of course. But because you are change maker, I believe so, I want to share with you a tip which I learned from all the spiritual master. It's like, if you want peace, if you want love, if you want joy, if you want harmony, if you want consciousness, you have to find it within yourself. And how do you find it within yourself? You find within yourself what blocks you for getting access to that. And what can block you, for instance, is what Carl Jung called the shadow. It could be your family lineage. It could be your trauma. I was very traumatized. I was completely disconnected. So how do you heal yourself? Well, you can do EMDR, you can do hypnosis, you can do plant medicine, you can go on analysis, you can do journaling, you can dance, you can sing, you can do yoga, you can do meditation to reconnect mind, body, and spirit in order to come back to your alignment. And this is how you will bring peace, love, joy, harmony, and consciousness to bring this new world that we are all been expecting and working for.
All right, so be the change is what I hear, yeah.
That's why we are ChangeNOW, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Marion?
Well, to me, what Buddhism has really taught me is compassion. Compassion and courage. Courage and compassion. Courage comes from the heart. But the courage to stay with something which is actually not comfortable, even like the mountain was ill, that there was like huge pollution on the slopes of the mountains. So to stay connected with that, actually I could feel it in myself, the disgust that wanted to to vomit, that I could feel the suffering of the mountain. And it's true, of course, for human to human. Like if I'm deeply connected with the suffering of others, I actually find from within the resource of the love, the care, the warmth, the determination, and also the confidence that actually there is a way to get better. And it's the compassion is going a little bit forwards after the empathy, being in empathy with someone or with the earth. But then not just like staying with that, with the suffering. I mean, staying with it as long as it needs to stay with. But then there is a kind of resource that needs to grow in us, and that we can train in every day to take care of ourselves as well, in some good habits of bringing this warmth, this love, and this care, smiling, hugging, so that actually when we need to take action for big actions, like for others and for the earth, then all those resources are available. There is enough kindness in us that we give to ourselves that we actually can bring to outside. So compassion is to be able to stay with the problem, with the difficult situation, with the discomfort, or with the suffering, and to stay as long as it needs until there is a shift that's actually the inner resources giving us a vision, a hope for getting in a better state.
Thank you. Amandine, did you want to add something?
Yes, of course. I remember well, Tenzin Gyatso, because Marion speaks perfectly Tibetan, is it compassion in action?
Yeah, the name of the
Yes.
Dalai Lama is compassion in action.
I did not
And
know.
actually,
we are.
action brings strength also for bringing these inner resources. To feel the compassion actually is always kind of growing in our daily life. So action is totally part of those tools or skills that we need to cultivate in our daily lives.
And because you asked me and I realized I didn't really answer your question about Buddhism,
Sure.
the best practice I remember from Buddhism is Tonglen. And I don't know if people know about Tonglen, raise your hand. So Tonglen is actually a technique where you do inhale, but you do exhale. For instance, when I was in Afghanistan, I was not aware, I'm an empath personality, which means I'm like a sponge.
You absorb other people.
And I've been absorbing all the bomb, the negativity, the toxicity, the chaos. And when I came back to France, I was like 3 months pregnant. And when I went to see this healer, he said, "Congratulations, you're pregnant." I said, "I'm not." He said, "So what happened?" He said, "Well, tell me." And he said, "Well, I can see bombing, assassination, and everything." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The problem with you is like you have been absorbing or cleaning like a vacuum cleaner all the negativity, but you don't know how to exhale. You have been just inhaling. So for this reason, you need to learn Tonglen. You have, when you do go on mission at service, it's good to serve, but give back to yourself. It's about self-care, right? And also, I have to say, because you were asking some tip, and I can share with you my 5 non-negotiable, which is in order for me to keep my sanity wherever I go, it's like I double check if I did sleep well, if I'm enough hydrated, if I eat properly, not like junk food, if I go on my inner self-awareness, which means journaling, and if I have any way to reconnect myself to my soul. It could be going to nature, it could be going on therapy, or having a chat with a friend. And if I don't feel okay, because it's all being connected to your emotion, if I don't feel okay, I stop and I say, what does it mean? It's on my list of 5 non-negotiable. I say, okay, I need to sleep more, okay. And it's really helped me. It's like an inner GPS kind of, and really help you. And what I want to say about the fact that if we do want for peace, love, joy, harmony, bring back to the world, this is emotion which vibrate at a higher frequency, unlike anger, hatred, jealousy, frustration. So you need to remove all these parts within yourself to raise your frequency in order to reach this level of consciousness.
Thank you. We have a little bit of time left. I'm wondering, is there, because we're at Change Now, and ultimately we want change now, we want the world to be a better place, we want to fight climate change, we want gender equality, we want it immediately. Is there maybe one thing that if humanity fostered, created into a practice, that you believe could change the world for the better, fundamentally? There's one thing that we worked on. Do you have any thoughts, any ideas what that might be for you?
Well, to be in service, and with a joyful effort, not like forcing things, but bringing the semshuk. Semshuk in Tibetan is the strength of the mind, but it's also the joyful effort. And to be in service with this joyful attitude, it brings actually selflessness. So selflessness is when you actually put yourself aside for something bigger than you, and that you actually connect to like not only a vision or a mission of being in action, but also like the sense of like, of course, togetherness, And what the Dalai Lama always say, and I think is his main message for now, so I'm just going to repeat it, is the oneness of 8 billion human beings. He always talk about that. It's just the oneness that makes really the difference. But the oneness of 8 billion human beings, it brings us to actually to feel the selflessness. And it's a complete shift. So, I mean, of course, it's not going to happen like that. We say it and then it happens. But, as he always repeats that these days, I'm also, along with him, saying that's the way. That's what we have to just take as a journey.
Selflessness.
Selflessness. And there's so much that goes with it. I mean, togetherness and feeling like really we depend on each other, the interdependence, and then we actually give up on our sense of competitiveness, yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, of course, there is so much to let go. Basically, everything that we grasp, that we have to let go, but it's as radical as that.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Amandine, what would you suggest is the one thing that if we could foster, we've got this?
Yeah, well, it took me times to reflect. I should say when I look back at my own journey, because I've been working in conflict zone, post-conflict country for 22 years, and I realized the first part of my life was really young-oriented, like masculine, like service, action, and determination, and courage, but I collapsed because I was completely disbalanced. I just developed so much of my masculinity within myself, and I repressed my femininity. We talked about that with Marion before. And I realized who I am to speak about harmony if I'm completely disbalanced, right? So I need to gain on feminine. And so feminine goes with patience. That's why my foot was broken, I believe so. And also on resilience, on caring, on loving. And I gain that in my life right now. So one tip is like every single of you, go within yourself and double check the balance. If you need a little bit more of young, masculine, a little bit more of feminine, in order to reach the sacred union within of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, which make you in unity for the world. That's it.
Thank you. So what I'm hearing and what both of you saying is there's a balance to be struck, actually, in how much we do and go and think, how much we feel and connect. All of those things sort of need to be balanced out. There is an aspect of self-awareness and knowing yourself that's really important, but there's also a part of activation and when you know how to act and act selflessly, and all of those things obviously aren't so easy to navigate. If they were, we'd all be, in perfect harmony all the time. For me, I'd love to leave our session in a place of an invitation to the audience on how we can all seek that harmony. Is it through breath? Is it through self-awareness? How can we actually check in with ourselves to see when we're off keel? Because it can happen, and it can happen like this, and I don't know about you all, I don't always get the indicators in the moment. I'm overworking, I'm stressed, I'm overstimulated, and I crash, and that's how I find out, I'm burnt out, I've gone too far, I've overserved others and underserved myself. What's the ticket back to figuring out, are we on track? How do we get
How
there?
relaxed I am. If I am relaxed, that's the compass. That's the compass. The body tells.
Mm-hmm. So listen to your body is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and listen to the body if it's relaxed or if it's stressed.
Mm-hmm.
And just how is it in the body when it's relaxed? And just feel it. Yeah.
Because if you're in a good state, your body will naturally be relaxed.
Yeah,
and
and
feel the tension.
Yeah,
right, if you
the
pay
body
attention.
and mind working together. So if the body is relaxed, and of course the mind is ready.
Beautiful, thank you. And Amandine, quickly, if you could close us off with a quick piece.
Yeah, I like when Phoebe was talking about imagination. I love that, is how you manifest your future. And so you use your brain, but always remember, your brain is faster than your body. Body is like a turtle, the brain is like a dog. And so, yes, in order for you to figure out how you are, yes, you're already there, but double check with your body if you can follow up on the pace. And definitely being at relaxation, if you are really in stress, you are completely disconnected from the mind, body, and spirit, and you go nowhere at the end.
Yeah, beautiful, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have with our panelists today, but I want to give a big, deep, and profound thank you to both of these wonderful ladies for joining us, for sharing so deeply. Thank you. And thank you so much, ladies. Take care. Thanks. Now, continuing on this theme of inner and outer connection, we're going to have our final speaker today. He's going to come up here and he's going to turn our conversation actually into an experience. So that should be delightful. I'm looking forward to that. His name is Mr. Olivier Maurel. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Good. Olivier is an entrepreneur and facilitator who guides organizations through the business complexities of our time. He contributed to various innovative programs within Danone, including social business ventures within the Nobel Peace Prize winner Mohamed Younus's work, and he now supports a large number of pioneers in the impact sector. Deep ecology and meaningful purpose are at the core of his approach. He leverages his expertise through collective intelligence consultancies and by organizing regeneration retreats in inspiring eco-centers. I will let his work speak for himself. Please welcome to the stage, Olivier.
Thank you very much, everybody. Do you hear me well? Somehow I have been invited to be a speaker today, but I would like to combo with being a listener. Santiago, Maurel, Martina invite me to guide a meditation. Do we have meditation or contemplation practitioner here? Can you raise your hand? Thank you to be here, and we have also a newbie. Welcome to you. Do we have a meditation teacher or meditation expert? Thank you to be here. Thank you. I'm not actually. I am a practitioner, but not an expert. So I will use a few slides to support this inner journey. When we are talking about inner change, somehow we are interconnected, the outside and the inside. And it's my invitation for the next 9 minutes. Sometimes, as a support for meditation, we can ask for help to visualization, like very nice mountains. They can help us, they can help me just to be inspired. Their greatness invite me to connect to the right proportion of my humanity. We can also ask the help of oceans, open new horizons. Thanks to meditation, we can also just connect to inner stars or outer stars, this very light in the dark or in the unknown. So I could have made the choice to ask the outside to come within this circle. But I think that maybe to go into inner space, we can be even more simple. Maybe some of you as practitioners, you just close your eyes. Don't use any visualization or outside landscape. You just connect to your inner peace or your inner theater. But I do think that the time is now not just to close our eyes, but really to open our eyes. So thank you for the people with the camera. Could you just put the camera on the audience? There is no center anymore. We are all in the center. Please look at this bunch of people. They have made the choice to join this circle. They are very busy. They are businessmen, businesswomen. They are innovators. They have a lot of things to do. And they have made the choice to go out of the running mode. They have decided just to take the time, to give their time, to create together a circle of interconnectedness, a circle of responsibility, a circle of hope. What we were looking for outside, far away outside, is just in the circle. Please acknowledge the fact that these people are very aware of the situation in the world. They know the thing. They know the state of the world. They do know that we are entered into the 6th extinction. They know about climate change. They know about violence, war, disease. They have many things to do, to think, and they decided just to make a stop. Please look around. You can look at the screen, or you can just look at your neighbors. Let's be conscious that we are a community. We are not alone. We are together. Maybe you know some of them. Maybe some others are just unknown for the moment. But we do belong to the ChangeNOW community. Change is here. All these people, these bright people, are also very concerned about inequality, injustice. Please don't look at me, look at you. We are the ones we are looking for. People here are very concerned about possible war, possible violence, possible disease. Maybe they have been touched in their own blood, in their own body, about drama, about chaos. And they decided to stand up for it. They decided to come and join at ChangeNOW, not to leave this complexity, this paradox alone, but to play their part. Meditation, contemplation, compassion is a gift, an active gift. It's not a lonely journey. We are one. We have 3 minutes just to move to this interconnectedness and maybe have a small conversation with your neighbor on the right, on the left, on what ChangeNOW, this edition, 2024, changed to my mind. What did change to my heart? To be a meditator is not to be neutral. It's to welcome life as it is? How have you welcomed life during this day, these 3 days? Please, 2 minutes to discuss with your neighbors. Thank you. So please, you can just look around, find someone, and share, how did I change my mind? How did I change my heart, my feeling within this 2-3 days conversation? Thank you. Thirty more seconds. Thank you to the ones who have shared their heart, their changing mind. You will have the rest of the summit to keep connected with people. I would like to say thank you for all of you who decided to make a stop in the running mode. Be conscious that the question is not the speed facing emergency, but really the question of the direction. Thank you to choose the right direction. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Olivier, for that wonderful exercise, for bringing us together, for allowing us to properly connect face-to-face, word-to-word, heart-to-heart. I invite you all to take this spirit, that connectivity to others, the connection to yourself, out into the world with you today as you venture out to networking events, as you go and eat dinner with your loved ones, whatever it is that you do. Keep in mind that that inner world affects your outer world, that outer world affects your inner world, and you always have choice on how you respond no matter what. And you can make changes now if that is what you choose. Thank you so, so much for attending our session. Thank you to our incredible speakers. Have a wonderful evening.